What is it like to have children you don't want? I love my son. I would die for him. I'd kill for him if I had to. Yet if I could go back in time and not have children, then I would. I was not prepared for a child. Even though I worked, we planned this pregnancy. I was not prepared for how much I'd lose myself and my whole identity. I was not prepared for the sleep deprivation, the constant screaming, the colic. I think overall I had a very bad experience. I was very, very sick after having a baby. I will never let my son know this. I will never let my son feel he is unloved or unwanted. It was not his choice to be born. Edit. Okay, wow, I did not expect this to blow up the way it did. To those calling me a good mom, thank you. To those saying I'm a terrible mom, well, I don't care what you say, Awal. This is why women do not talk about this kind of stuff and suffer in silence. To anyone really struggling and want to talk to someone who won't give judgment, please DM me. My girlfriend had a 2-year-old when I met her. He's 5 now. I didn't plan to have kids, but I love her. I'm pretty much used to it. I teach him stuff, and he's attached to my hip when he's here, joint custody with the father. But ideally, I'd have preferred to not have a kid around. I can deal, though. He can be a little craphead sometimes, LMAO. Also, it's weird disciplining someone else's kid. So I'm just getting there. I can see the betrayal in his eyes. I'm supposed to be like the fun uncle. Getting on to him is weird. Never really said that out loud. This is liberating. A very close friend has 2 children, 6 and 212, but really because her husband wanted kids, and she knew he'd leave her if she stood her ground on not wanting kids. She loves her kids with all her heart, but misses the life she could have had without them. Aside from work, just started her residency. All she does is being a mom. She has little to no time for her own hobbies anymore, and misses that a lot. I can't say if the kids notice that at their age, but I worry they might at some point, or that she'll one day just crack and resent either her kids or her husband for taking that child-free life from her. Edit. Just to clarify, they talked openly about the situation before getting married or even engaged. She knew her options and made the conscious choice to stay with her partner, even if that meant updating her life plans. She's not unhappy or miserable. Neither are her partner or her kids. She simply sometimes has her what-if moments, but I'm sure many of us have those. Sure, many would have made a different decision, but it was ultimately her decision in this case, and she made it. Edit 2. I have no idea where people read that her husband doesn't do anything. That's not the case at all. They're both parents to their children, and both their days look like sleep, parent, work, parent, chores, sleep. Also, it's not like she now wishes her kids didn't exist. Yes, her life plans didn't include children before she met her husband, but that doesn't mean that she now wishes they didn't exist. Imagining the life she could have had without them isn't the same as wishing her kids out of existence. This is a story of a very close friend of mine, on a bit different note. But I guess it could fit in some light. He was abused as a kid, violence and mentally by both parents, and was scared of ever even getting close to kids, in a fear he would hurt them in some way. He is generally a really meek but caring person, like a total opposite of what he got at home. This was his just coping mechanism, as kids literally clung to him. Then he met a loving woman and they married. She slowly warmed him up to being around younglings. It helped she works in preschool daycare. And finally, they, both, decided it's okay to go. 2 attempts, sadly, and little over a year later, he was holding small baby in his arms. His eyes, his hair, her face, her smile. He told me during the pregnancy he was super happy and did everything he could for his wife and future junior. He started loving it truly. And when he felt it kicking, he was internally overflowed with happiness that a small human was growing there, and he or she will have dreams, laughs, and hurdles. Yet, standing there, he felt nothing, like no spark, no love, no happiness, no resentment, no joy, nothing. He was holding small, hot, moving piece of meat, which he had absolutely no attachment to. It crushed him. Talk with wife crushed him even more. He did everything he could to care for her and hope he will grow to love, but it never came. As soon as time allowed, he went into therapy, and after 3 years heard that sometimes this just happens. His daughter is now 6, is healthy and happy as far as I can tell, but I heard my share of his pain. He feels inferior as a human for deceiving his daughter, and he powers through it by sheer willpower and effort. If I can't love her, at least I will still try to give her something I couldn't have, caring home. He told me exactly once that he really regrets agreeing to have a kid, but I could feel his shame. His wife is a wonderful person enough to accept him like this. She told us, my fiancé is more of her support than I am. She wanted more kids, but she is really afraid to put more on him. Raising one will be enough of a challenge for them, that's for sure. I know he will keep all his promises and words, but it already takes a toll on him. My ex-husband was emotionally abusive and, if I'm being completely honest with myself, forced me into getting pregnant 3 months after going into labor and losing our daughter at 20 weeks. I wasn't ready and I hadn't really had a chance to grieve. He quit his job 3 days into my required maternity leave, so I had to go back to work as soon as physically possible. Our son was 13 weeks early, spent 2 months in the NICU and cost over $1 million in his first year. Thank goodness for good insurance. Now my son is almost 7. His father hasn't been in the picture for years, and until recently I was doing it all on my own. My son showed incredible strength to grow big enough to breathe on his own and come home, so I've made it my mission to give him a great life and make sure he never knows that I didn't want to be a parent after my daughter died. This is kind of crazy because I was just thinking about this today. I'm not going to use a throwaway or anything. Not that I think anyone on here would actually know me. When you have a kid, you kind of get this idea in your head on how things are going to be. How you're going to teach them things, share special moments as they learn, and have this cool, amazing bond. Then your kid comes into this world and is not at all what you expect. My kid is special needs and has major developmental delays. He's 2 and basically just lives in his own world. Doesn't communicate, doesn't respond to his name, and has basically missed every single milestone out there. So you feel regret, despair, and a whole bunch of other negative stuff, especially guilt. It wasn't his fault he came into the world this way. He didn't ask to be here. So there's a lot of complex emotions going on. However bad it makes me feel, though, I just kind of wish he didn't exist. For instance, as I was writing this, I went to the bathroom, and in the 3 minutes I was gone, he took a dump, forced both his hands into his diaper, and smeared crap all over his face and pin and everywhere else. Now my whole apartment reeks, and I had a half hour of cleanup because I left my toddler alone for all of 3 minutes. This isn't the first time this has happened. I just can't connect with him, and it has me feeling like I'm just his caretaker rather than his dad. Edit. Aw, I've never really had a virtual Reddit hug like this. It was honestly really helpful and made me feel a lot better. So thanks, everyone. I had so many people message me, and there's so many comments I couldn't ever respond to them all. However, I read everything. I appreciate it. I really do. I also want to address a few comments. First off, I love my son. God knows I have some bad days, but signing over my parental rights simply isn't an option. I have lots and lots of family support, and his mom is always there to make us both feel better. She understands us both. My kid is enrolled in various programs and is already getting treatment. He is making progress and is starting to use very simple words even if it doesn't make any sense. I really know my kid is in there somewhere. We had one event about a month ago where he answered a question with a 3-word sentence. He even included the word I. I don't understand it at all or how it fits into everything else. I really want to believe he's in there somewhere and will eventually get to a point where he can communicate basic needs and follow some basic instructions. We're just gonna keep on doing what we can.